Children tend to be oblivious to a lot of different things. They tend to be more playful, more innocent about the world around them, and unaware of the consequences their actions have.
Shoko, are you okay? Oh no, she's bleeding! What do we do?
And this is something A Silent Voice captures beautifully. A Silent Voice is one of those movies that feels like a genuine rollercoaster of emotions, going from the blissful ignorance of pre-adolescence to the depression and anxiety that befalls our main protagonists, Shoya and Shoko. And for me, when I was watching this movie for the very first time, I cried. But this was different. There have been a lot of movies that have had emotional moments that have made me cry. But there's only ever been one movie that, for me, has the emotional storytelling that has made me cry uncontrollably from beginning to the very end. And today, I want to go over how A Silent Voice did that to me. I want to go over how A Silent Voice broke me. I had a strange feeling when I watched the opening scenes for this movie. The film opens up with the main character, Shoya Ishida, selling all of his belongings, closing his accounts, and paying off his perceived debt in preparation to commit suicide. There's a strange connection I felt with that opening scene. I myself at times have just wanted to disappear, to finalise everything and just leave. And straight away, the film shows us the route as to why he's like this. After Shoya is snapped out of his mental state by fireworks. Bullying, especially as the victim, can have a devastating effect on your life. It can lead to feelings of anxiety, depression, the feelings of low self-esteem, even after the bullying has long since ended. As a child, Shoya is shown to be outgoing, brimming with confidence and having a boisterous personality. In my own life, in my own school career, I was bullied. I had just transferred from one school to another when I was 8 years old, and because I was a weird child, I was bullied. I was excluded from things, rocks were thrown at me, I was called names, I had people talk behind my back, the other kids thought I was a burden just to be around them. While it's long since over, bullying does leave a lasting effect on the victims, anxiety, depression, and self-hatred. So when I looked at Shoya, someone who's shown throughout the film to have all these things, all these emotional scars, being shown to be the bully, and then bullied for being the bully, that stung. Shoya, as shown in the beginning montage, is shown to have bullied Shoko, the new girl who just transferred, because she's deaf, because she is disabled, because she can't communicate. Anybody living with a disability already has a hard enough time dealing with the world around them, as society is structured in a way that is mainly for normal, functioning people. And with children, because they don't usually have the maturity to see another person's perspective, don't understand how hard it is to put themselves in another's shoes until the consequences are shown. And as a child, Shoya bullies Shoko extensively, while his classmates, even if in small ways, encourage it. Shoko gets excluded, Shoya throws rocks at her, people talk about Shoko behind her back. How she is shown to be bullied was very similar to the way that I, in addition to many others who have experienced bullying, was bullied at school. And while I regret this, there were forms of bullying that I saw happen to other people, but never spoke out about due to the fear of ostracism that may have happened to me if I had done so. The ostracism and bullying that Shoya goes through after Shoko leaves the school and the kids see the consequences of his, and to a lesser extent, their actions. I cried throughout this entire sequence, as not only does this capture how real bullying can be, but at the same time, my heart went out to Shoko. Shoko throughout the entire sequence is shown to just want to get along and be friends with her classmates, and even asks to be friends with Shoya, even as he bullies her. So when they finally fight, I felt so overwhelmed with emotion. And there's one line where my heart broke. And Shoya, as a child, can't wrap his head around any of this. Why someone he has caused so much grief for would go out of his way to help him. Which is why, when he grows older, he develops so much anxiety and self-hatred. I myself suffer from a lot of anxiety, much of it being social. And it stopped me from doing many things that I have wanted to do in my life. Making friends with certain people, joining new activities and hobbies, forming connections with new people. And for me, the crosses that Shoya sees covering other people's faces that he doesn't know captures this anxiety perfectly. The fear of what people would think of you if they got to know you, the fear of that judgment. Shoya, due to his actions towards Shoko and the resulting karmic justice that he went through, is presented as a social leper, someone riddled with anxiety and depression. And for someone who has this sort of anxiety and is in therapy for it, it's not a pleasant feeling. The problem, for me at least, when facing anxiety is that it feels overwhelming. For me, if I go to do the thing that is causing this level of anxiety, I don't just feel nervous, I feel like I'm about to have a heart attack. Almost ironically, the solution to deal with anxiety, which I have used during my own life, is actually to face the anxiety head on and do the thing that's causing said anxiety. This creates a paradox of sorts. To overcome your anxiety, you must do the thing or face the thing that is causing your anxiety, but to do the thing will cause you to have even more of that anxiety, which means you won't do the thing, which means worse anxiety. It's a loop that is self-perpetuating. But the film shows Shoya dealing with that anxiety, that self-hatred of his, in small, doable steps. He reconnects with Shoko to try and make amends. He learns sign language in order to communicate with her. And over time, over the course of the film, he reconnects with old friends. All of these actions that help him face his anxiety helps to put him on the road to self-forgiveness. The ability to forgive yourself, for me at least, is one of the hardest things to do. There have been a lot of events in my life where I think, why did I do that? What should I have done differently? What did I do? And something I've noticed is that when I'm involved in a bad event, the last person I tend to forgive is myself, even if everybody else doesn't view the event as a big deal. And this is something that I see in both Shoya and Shoko. With Shoko, she blames herself for some of the problems that happen in her life, such as her bullying or the way people respond to her as a result of her deafness. She takes it to heart and tries to make things right. This is something I have sometimes done, often to no avail. I have had those feelings of regret, of being a burden, being a problem in other people's lives. As for Shoya, he struggles to forgive himself for his bullying behaviour, and that impacts his life, causing his suicidal behaviour and his anxiety. While I can't say I've ever bullied someone, I can say I've done things that I regret, and those things do play on my mind. So when I looked at how Shoya struggles to forgive himself, I saw myself in that. I felt that. That's the main theme of this story. Self-forgiveness, how our dynamic duo of Shoko and Shoya are able to forgive themselves. I have spoken of my own childhood abuse story in a previous video, but I want to bring it up here because I want to add a bit more context. I was in a psychologically abusive household as a child, screaming, shouting, things being broken in front of me, and when they weren't, I could always figure out what was happening. And I felt a lot of blame for this. I felt responsible for the violent outbursts towards me, despite the fact that I know it was never my fault. What didn't help in that situation is that I have a mild learning difficulty. Mild enough to the point that if I were to try and get a diagnosis for it now, I would be considered to not have the issue. Now, I won't go massively into it, but it does, at times, make communication a lot more difficult, and because of it, I have done some stupid shit. And while a lot of people have forgotten about these little events, to me, I sometimes find myself blaming myself for these things constantly. I'm someone who's always looked at what I've done wrong first, even if there wasn't anything I had done wrong in that situation. Forgiving oneself is an exceptionally hard thing to allow yourself to do. So at the end of the film, when Shoya, in the final scene of the film, sees all the crosses over the people's faces, he knows he's achieved his own redemption. And maybe one day, I'll be able to do the same. And this is how a silent voice broke me. Thank you for joining me today. If you liked the video, make sure to like, share and subscribe and turn on the notification bell. It really helps me out in the long run. If you want to keep up to date with me in between videos, make sure to follow me at OhNoIt'sJustin2. Thank you.